where the man actually pushed back within his own footprint in the mud. It was pliable. So we have the great toe scraping, pushing back. This becomes the ball of the foot. The great toe is embedded here, and you have the entire angle. So you have an unusual track, and we have all of that documented on film. But let's proceed to another series of footprints in our research project. This series of footprints occurred outside Stinnett, Texas, about 4 miles, in Permian rock. A man named A.M. Coffey, a pumper for the Gulf Oil Company, discovered a series of 9 footprints in Permian rock. Now, Dr. Jackson, we just mentioned over there in this scale, evolutionary geologic column, Permian before the Carboniferous. According to evolutionary theory, Permian rock is from 225 to 256 million years old. That is old.
Before the dinosaurs, before the lizards we supposedly evolved from in evolution timescales.
Yes. And according to evolutionary theory, man evolved only 2.5 million years ago, even in primitive form. But I'd like for you to look at this print with me, please. Now, this is a certified cast of resin. We had the original for our examination, and for the first time, scientific studies were done on this, in that we had 800 x-rays run vertically and horizontally, and the technicians were able to determine that the print is genuine, that there's compression under the print, and the display of compression forward in the toes. Now, you've had a lot of anatomy in your study. Would you examine that track? What does it look like?
Well, it sure looks like a human foot.
An ape has an opposable thumb, essentially.
Oh, absolutely. If it was an ape, you'd have a thumb that actually sticks out more than our thumb does. It's like if you had done this, that's what an ape's foot looks like.
So, Dr. Provine said you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's one way or the other.
The truth is one way or the other, yes.
That's correct. So, if this series of tracks is actually genuine, then we have man completely out of place, and evolutionary theory is damaged, if not totally destroyed.
There was one evolutionist that said if man existed back as far as even the Carboniferous period, all geologists, evolutionary geologists, should quit their jobs and take up truck driving.
All right.
That's how bad the theory is.
That is correct. Now, for the first time in public display, other than to a small group of academics, we're going to expose to this audience 2 footprints. I'll ask you to be so kind as to take the cover. And here we have, now you're taller than I, more graceful than I, so I'll ask you to do a bit of reaching. This rock is Cretaceous. It came from the Glen Rose area. We know specifically where it came from. It was taken out in the mid-50s by O.W. Willett. He was fishing at the Blue Hole. Fish were not biting, so the recent flood had ripped up a ledge of limestone, exposing a trail. He took out supposedly the best of these. According to evolutionary theory, Dr. Jackson, this rock is 110 million years old. But according to that same theory, man did not appear even in primitive form until 2.5 million years ago.
Well, even though dinosaurs are supposed to become extinct at the Cretaceous-Tertiary boundary, we still have some dinosaur fossils in Cretaceous rock. So there's this, according to evolution theory, this would be way back. There would actually have been dinosaurs at the time, and of course evolutionists believe that 63 million years after the dinosaurs were gone, then there were finally people.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, would you tell me what this is? With a ball of the foot, the medial section of the longitudinal arch, the heel calcaneus section, the lateral section of the longitudinal arch, the metatarsal arch, the ball of the foot is mentioned, the great toe, the very sensitive second toe, third, fourth, little toe. You have a PhD in science education. You've had a lot of anatomy. I know this is a research project in process, but what would you suppose that might be?
Well, certainly it looks a lot like a human foot. Now, to think that maybe just water did that, or a stick fell out of a tree and happened to just make something like that's very much more unlikely. Now, as a creationist and as just a scientist, if I just look at this and pretend I don't know anything or believe anything about creation or evolution,
Correct.
I just look at that, I go, just like you're asking me the obvious question, that's a footprint from a human being.
Yes.
And what, of course, we need is to have all the verifications, all the questions that a skeptic would ask.
Absolutely.
Answered for them. And, of course, then, well, the Bible even said, you know, they have Abraham, they have Moses and the prophets, they won't believe even if someone's raised from the dead. And you know, true dyed-in-the-wool atheists will just dispel this in some way. But if you just look at it honestly in a search for the truth, it looks just like a human footprint. Now we need the experts, we need paleontologists, we need anatomists, we need mineralogists to do a mineral composition match with the layer that we say it comes from, and verify all those kinds of things. And then what's left? It's now data.
Yes.
And what will they do with the truth?
And there are objective individuals on the fence watching this program at this time who really want to know if there is evidence and will embrace that evidence. And anticipating precisely what you said as a scientist, I took this to a certified laboratory. They ran 800 x-rays and a spiral CAT scan. They determined that vertically and horizontally the compression lines are in place under the footprint, between and under the toes, and the compression displacement as you see it here. And we are now in the process. We have a thin section of some of this material that is in a laboratory as we speak, so we're in the process of doing precisely what you had suggested. Now, what's very interesting is that compression found by the X-ray specialist showed there's compression and displacement here, as if this were the hallux of some other footprint. There's compression and displacement here, as if there were a pliable footprint underneath.
So what you're saying is there are layers of squeezed mud underneath both of these.
That is correct.
Yeah. Like there was weight on top of them.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is a dinosaur called Dimorphodon who could both walk and fly, had a pliable foot, and therefore it's totally conceivable that a little Dimorphodon-like dinosaur or pterodactyl stepped there first, and then the man stepped on it. And of course that places man and dinosaur as being contemporaneous. Now, we come to where you're going to be needed again. This is the very first exposure of this track to a public audience. This track was taken out of the Biloxi in the mid-1950s by O.W. Willett before the state park was established. This track was discovered early June 2000, the year 2000, and has come to our attention, and both of these are now in the possession of the Creation Evidence Museum. This was discovered by Alvis Delk, archaeologist. Assisting him was his friend James Bishop. First, Alvis Delk observed the dinosaur track, obviously, and then to his absolute amazement, Dr. Jackson, the dinosaur stepped on and pushed into and displaced a portion of another track. Here's a ball of a foot, the metatarsal arch, the great toe, second, third, fourth, little toe. Here is the medial arch, the heel section, and the dinosaur has compressed this, meaning the man stepped first, the dinosaur stepped on his track. What are your observations about this combination of footprints?
Well, I have looked all over this with a magnifying glass, trying to just see all the little details.